Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Homo sapiens, pavers and savers, mortgage providers and fugitive hiders, welcome along to the Gamesmanship podcast, the show forever at the crease of sporting insight. There's been what I would describe as a mild hiatus from us two. We've been away from the crease in a while. We've stopped. Rain has stopped play for some time, mainly because nothing's been on. There's been a small thing called the Commonwealth Games, which I don't think anybody's watching, if I'm honest. Australia are ahead in the medals table, so we don't give a damn. But yeah, my name is Joe Spivey, as ever. We're both still alive. That is George Wilson. George, are you on the other line?
Yep, down in very hot, steamy Brighton, but that's as it always is.
Yeah, it's pretty... well, it might not be steamy down here, but the sun's out, which is always a positive. So we, without further ado, we have got the first weekend of the Premier League. The beautiful game is back. We've had the opening fixtures. We've had... What did we do? We had Arsenal on Thursday at Palace at Selhurst Park. That was wonderful to watch. What did you make of that first fixture, Mr. Wilson?
A very strong away win for Arsenal. I had a couple of friends who were all of a sudden getting very excited, perhaps prematurely, but yeah, a very successful start to campaign for Arsenal. And I think the big story of the weekend, at least for me, being a Brighton fan living here, United losing their first game at home, going 2-0 down, and then only to get one very scrappy goal back. A poor performance. And it looks like it's going to be another tough season.
A 6-yard box scramble. There was complications with the keeper. It basically barely went in. About 5 minutes before that, Brighton should have had a penalty to make it 3-0. Even Carragher thought it was a penalty. So that would have put the game to bed, and obviously it would have changed the situation altogether. So yeah, I mean, I don't know about you, George. It wasn't really a case of Manchester United being that bad. I mean, they weren't awful.
Well, Bruno Fernandes...
Brighton strung a few passes together. They were very, very good.
I mean, Fernandes missed a sitter before Brighton even scored. So it should have been 1-0, and then it's a completely different game.
Yeah, did he put it over the crossbar or something?
Yeah, but it was high and wide and just... It's
high, wide, and not very handsome.
It screams of a team that's had a very, very bad pre-season. Ronaldo was looking lazy. They haven't got the signings that they want. They want De Jong in and new players.
Nigel.
Harry Maguire was getting run around at the back by a 45-year-old Danny Welbeck.
Yeah. Welbeck played fucking well.
He did, but... You know, it's not as if he's...
I was scathing at the beginning because, it's Danny Welbeck, useless for England, can't bring a ball down to save his life, and all of a sudden he's a decent centre-forward that can hold the ball up and stuff. But yeah, Danny Welbeck had a very good game. Seen lots of energy. Went off with about 10 minutes to go to the to wondrous applause from the Brighton fans. But yeah, it's always nice to see Manchester United beaten when they're hopeful and when they're in great applause and great attendance. It's always nice to see them down. Not that we're at all biased on this podcast whatsoever. Manchester United fans, please stay with us and watch. But yeah, what's the guy's name? Is it Ten Hag or something like that? He's like a Dutch Tucker. Comes from he's brought a team up from the 7th division in the Netherlands and to the Eredivisie.
He managed Ajax.
Everybody thinks he's really good. And he managed Ajax and stuff. So he's in fine fettle. But there were points in that match where obviously the Sky camera panned over to him, and you could just see the dismay on his face, and he was thinking, "What on earth have I inherited here?"
I mean, I think the real problem is he's always described as a disciplinarian, and it's sort of if shouting and strict rules and a strict program isn't working, I don't quite understand where he's going to turn to, because he's not the kind of manager who's going to train up players and really turn them around. And sort of what Eddie Howe does is quite famous for getting perhaps not so good players, building them up and actually training them. Ten Hag is like, right, I'm just going to discipline you into being a really good side. And I just don't think that that's going to work for undisciplinable.
I would probably go with something else, George. That's quite a lot of suffixes in there that you shouldn't be using. But anyway, I wouldn't dare comment on English. But
undisciplinable players, it seems.
Yeah.
Not that they don't receive the discipline, just it doesn't seem to make any difference. They're just out of confidence.
Yeah, that's true.
Not.
I mean, is it a case of do they just not have a decent? Because I was sort of. I mean, obviously Manchester United renowned as probably the most famous club in the world. That might be temeritous of me to say so, but I could defend it in court were I Harvey Specter. Manchester United, biggest club in the world. Just started watching Suits, by the way. Excellent. Have you ever seen that, George? Just as an off-key moment.
Yes.
Did you rate it? You liking it?
Yeah, I'd stop at about season 4 if I were you.
Okay, well, I'm episode 11 of season 1 or something. Meghan Markle's just been sacked, but apart from that, yeah. But yeah, what was I saying? Oh yeah, Manchester United, big club, loads of money. They don't seem to have any decent players. Is it me? Like, they don't have a star-studded lineup. Obviously, they spend most of their money on Ronaldo, I imagine.
Which is their really big problem, because he doesn't want to be there, and they're talking about getting a big new striker in. But he can't go anywhere because no other club is wanting to pay him £250,000, £300,000 a week. So he's effectively
which is what he'll want.
which is what United need for someone to take him off their hands. So you're like, United I don't particularly think, like, if someone gave them an offer, I think they'd take it.
Someone in the MLS or someone in China.
I don't. But no one's got enough money for a 37-year-old.
Who's got 2 years at best left in him. Yeah.
2 years of proper football before he goes to America. Yeah, but which is a bit of a shame. And then the next big talking point, I think, is Liverpool dropping points.
Yes.
Drawing to Fulham,
who
looked very well organised. Mitrovic again scoring 2 goals. Can he do his championship 40-goal season again? This unlikely, but for any fantasy footballers out there, could be a big point monster.
Fantasy footballers, yeah. I didn't actually see it again. It was on BT, and I wasn't on the app this weekend. I was solely resigned to terrestrial television, so I didn't actually get to see the game. I know they obviously dropped points at the Cottage, which they shouldn't have done. Yeah, I mean, is there going to be anarchy at the gates, George? Is it time to get scared for Liverpool, or is it just sort of first game nerves?
Well, just first game nerves, but as the last season proved, 2 points is a lot, and
it is a lot. Yeah,
and it's not like they went 2-0 up and then Fulham straight back. Fulham went 1 up, then Liverpool equalised, and Fulham went 2-1 up. They were constantly chasing the game. It was definitely a feeling of nerves as they're heading in, that they don't feel like they've got much breathing space, especially when you have teams like Man City putting in a pretty
that was solid, wasn't it? It was
just a solid performance against West Ham. A fantastic second goal from Haaland. I don't understand how someone that big can be that quick, and it's scary having De Bruyne in midfield giving delightful balls up to Haaland because he's quick. So he gave him a ball straight in the middle, but then great in the air because he's so tall. You can have cross. It's scary.
Haaland is the Wout van Aert of football, one might say. Yes. Oh, that's somebody ringing our door. Never mind. I didn't quite catch the Man City game. Watched Chelsea. Watched the Blues against the Blues at Goodison Park. Good to see that Frank Lampard's put a bit of timber on. He's enjoying life as obviously a retired footballer.
Yeah, Everton are looking in trouble, I think.
Potentially, yeah. They didn't look brilliant.
Proving that signing half of a Burnley side that got relegated and people like Dwight McNeil and James Tarkowski might not be the best if you want to challenge for European football. I mean,
it's not the blueprint for Premier League success, is it really?
Tarkowski's a player who can keep you up. He didn't with Burnley, but that's because he didn't have any goals scored around him. And Dwight McNeil never scores any goals. It was only 20 million, and there have definitely been much worse purchases for 20 million in the Premier League before.
Oh, yes.
But I don't know. It sort of it seems very similar to United for me, that they've sort of papered over the cracks there with this. They had a very bad pre-season, losing 4-0 to some American side. Again, it's just.
You can't really help it, because is it the same as, say, Formula One, whereby the lower you finish in is money allotted to teams based on their ranking in the hierarchy of the league at the end of the season? Is that how it works, or? It
is, but that money will have no significance really on Everton's budget. The big problem for Everton is that because they had spending cap budget issues over COVID and then wrote off far more debt to COVID than any other clubs who were getting investigated.
Is that still going on?
Well, kind of, yeah. Which means they can't make any massive big new signings. Like they were trying to also buy Cornet from Burnley, but then we're sort of going to have to spread that pay 2-3 million up front and then 15 million next year when they have the budget allocation.
Right. Okay.
And it is a shame because like United and Everton are have two of the most loyal fan bases you can
stalwarts of football.
Stalwart, like
yes.
The opposites, like the rival clubs, Liverpool and Man City have a lot of fans not from that own place.
Yeah.
Whereas you don't get too many. Oh, hi.
You don't get too many people from London saying, "Oh, I'm an Everton fan." Yeah. Do you go to Goodison at the weekend? Yeah, all that time. Yeah. So yeah, Everton are shit. Chelsea, I'm not sure. They should have beaten a shit side by a lot more, in my opinion. Tuchel has already said that they're not ready yet. Who did I like? Not ever so. Oh, Sterling played well. Obviously, it's pretty hard for Raheem not to perform well. He's a pretty quick kid, skillful player, etc., etc. Always good. Jorginho, excellent at the spot as ever. But yeah, I mean, they're pretty solid. They might get a top four, but they're not going to do anything shining, I don't think, unless they pull out some stops. Unless the Roman Empire starts again and we sign somebody absolutely extraordinary before the end of the transfer window. I can't see. I can't see brilliance at the top of the table. I can't see them beating Man City. I can even see, like, on another point, Tottenham looks bloody good.
Going 1-0 down to Southampton, then coming back to win 4-1.
Yeah.
We are in for a treat of a North London derby.
Yeah. Friday at 4. Sunday at 4 or something like that.
It's going to be
I
big.
think so. That'll be good. At the Bridge.
Well, yeah. I mean, Tottenham look well organised. Not too many. Well, like Perisic and a couple of new people coming in. But again, it's just, can Son continue scoring his goals he did last season? Can Kane not start as slowly as he normally does?
Hurricane.
And then final topic I want to touch on in the Premier League is Newcastle top 4. Maybe
could happen. It's not unfeasible, George. It's not mad, and it's not lunar of you to say so. It's possible. They've got the backing. Who did they win this weekend? I literally...
they beat Forest 2-0 at home. So
okay.
it's a very gentle.
Forest could well turn out to be shit, couldn't they? Let's be honest.
Yeah, well, I mean, they spent 100 million this transfer window. They spent a lot of money, but
I knew that was a lot of money, George. Even in football terms, I didn't need that clarifying. They spent 100 million, which is also a lot of money.
Yeah,
yes.
I mean that buys you Ronaldo for like 2 weeks.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. And what could you do with Ronaldo for 2 weeks? What a fortnight you would have.
But yeah, I would be very, very, very nervous of away games at Newcastle. I think are going to be very hard.
Yeah. Go into
any point. St James's Park.
St James. Oh yeah, it's still called St James's Park. Yeah.
Is going to. I'll tell you what, that would be a good boys trip.
Yeah, it's going to prove tough. Anybody going there is going to have to work their socks off to get a victory. But yeah, that pretty much rounds it up for football. Aside from that, we have got some litigious issues occurring in the world of Formula One. Wheels have been turned in the last week. So initially we had the announcement of Alonso going to... Was the first one Alonso going to Aston Martin for next year? That was the first one, wasn't it?
Well, I mean, the silly season was all kicked off by Vettel retiring.
That was it. Sorry, yeah, Vettel's retired, which you haven't discussed. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Which for people who aren't following it now means there's an Aston Martin seat available. And the big sort of controversy is that Alonso mix our words here, lied to Alpine, had promised that he was going to sign, whilst the whole time was talking to the Aston Martin guys saying, how much would you like to pay me?
Shady Spaniard.
So Otmar Safnauer, the team principal of Alpine, has had some pretty tough words to say about Alonso. Effectively,
pretty stern words.
Effectively meant that he was meant to be signing on a Sunday, and on the Saturday before that, he announced his Aston Martin driver spot for next year. Mm-hmm. So there's a bit in that.
There is a bit in that. I think that's poor. unless he's being paid
Mm.
an insane amount of money and he just wants to laugh his way to the bank for 2 or 3 years. I can't see it being a move that gets him top 10 positions every week.
Yeah, but Lord of the Eyebrows, 2-time world champion, does what you want. And then that kicked off this whole debate and confusion around Oscar Piastri, because obviously Otmar Safnauer and Alpine had thought Alonso signing on, so they had given permission to their young, brilliant driver,
Aussie
Oscar
P.
Piastri, Aussie P, who's from Australia, by the way. We got that wrong a couple of episodes ago.
What nationality did we say?
I can't remember, but
We didn't nationalise him, did we? Anyway, go on.
We did. So they gave him permission to sling his hook to try and find a seat for next year, go fishing as it was in the Formula One paddock, and he went and he was getting nibbles deluxe.
Yeah, as you can imagine, even like obviously George waxes lyrical about this man on a daily basis. Like so many fan pages are followed. He's won. What is he? I ask this every week because I never take it in because frankly, if it's not Formula One and it's autosport, I don't give a shit. But he's won he's won F2 twice or something. He's done bits in the lower regions, hasn't he?
Well, you can't win it twice because once you've won it, you're not allowed back in.
But he won really? Didn't know that. Fuck.
Which is why they're all stuffed when you were in F2 now and can't go into F1. But he won F3 and F2 in consecutive years, and he was in his first year in each of those.
Wow, that's talent if ever I've heard. So, yep, people should be chomping at the bit for this man's signature, shouldn't they?
Yeah, but then the whole problem, of course, was Fernando Alonso then left. They'd already given permission to Piastri to go, and then obviously, without consulting Piastri, Alpine rather quickly, as if they'd been hurt by Fernando Alonso, put out a brilliant tweet saying Oscar Piastri announced the drive for Alpine 2023, which was what everyone was expecting. He's the backup driver. He's a fully contracted Alpine driver, has been for 3-4 years. And then the spice happens.
I mean, this was redolent of, I don't know, again, I'm going off topic here, but I assume you've seen the thick of it, George, the BBC's political satire.
Yes.
This is the Hugh Abbott disgruntled civil servant who announces a policy, then doesn't announce the policy, then announces the policy later. Like, who the hell is in charge of the Alpine Instagram page? Like, what the fuck? Like, you have one prerequisite for signing somebody, which is he signing with us? Like, that's the question you ask. Is he definitely signing with us? And somebody with a clipboard who's paid presumably hundreds of thousands of pounds per annum to say yes or no says, yes, Oscar Piastri is signing with us. Oh, excellent. We'll post about that. And then lo and behold, the very opposite occurs. Like, I don't know how you can get that. I would be embarrassed if I were in middle management in Marks and Spencer's and I made an error that momentous, but it's Alpine F1 with millions and billions of followers around. How the hell have they got that? So you can tell, George, by my pitch. I'm like, this is unfathomable. How have they got it so bloody wrong?
I mean, the balls on Oscar Piastri must be fairly enormous because this is a guy who hasn't tested in a free practice session yet. So he's never driven an F1 car on a Grand Prix weekend like Nick De Vries has or someone like that.
Yeah.
And goes on his Twitter and just says, I can confirm for 2023 I will not be driving for Alpine.
It was the reiteration of that clause as well. It was like, I will not be... Go on.
How many young guys are out there chomping at the bit to get an F1 seat? And this guy's just said, nah, I'm not having the fourth best car of this year.
Nah, fuck it. No. It was like I say, it was the reiteration of the clause, I will not be driving for Alpine. Just to confirm, in 2023, I will not be an Alpine driver. It was like, mate, just like, I know they've probably screwed you over, and some monogamist has given you a call saying, look, there's been an error. Like, could you please just for the time being, just race with us? And he's just, no. Because he's like, is he confident that somewhere else is going to give him a seat? I mean, what's the MO?
So this is the whole thing. So he is quietly, supposedly confirmed now to be driving for McLaren next year, with McLaren and Zach Brown going to be buying out Daniel Ricciardo out of his contract. But this is where all the controversy starts happening, because obviously Piastri is a Alpine contracted driver, even if, let's say, they did give him the permission to go shopping in the driver market, he's still contracted to them, and he obviously hasn't signed the McLaren contract yet.
Yeah.
But obviously, Piastri and his team think that they gave him the green light to go, and obviously he's now able to go. But there's also a problem that Alpine were very clear that they didn't want him going to a competitor because they don't want their star driver driving in a McLaren next year, who are Alpine's main competitors.
Yeah, that's not exactly brilliant, Mark.
They were very clear that they wanted him to be the Latifi replacement at Williams.
Just learn the ropes for a few years and then just go on to something.
Yeah, so there's not only a controversy around the fact he's going, even though somehow he's contracted somewhere else, like the contract's just not mean anything. He's going to the one team that they specifically said you can't go there.
Yeah.
And I'm just seeing some balls on a kid. Like that's
well, he knows his own strength, doesn't he? He's
yeah, but he's simultaneously fucking off Alpine, fucking off Williams. That's a lot of
fuck-offery.
Enemies. There's a lot of fuck-offery to be doing in your first.
Of all the fuck-offery, that is the highest.
Yeah, and he hasn't even driven an F1 car yet in a Grand Prix weekend. Like, he's done a lot of testing, but
he's got some umph behind him. He's got Wilsonian support, but apart from that, he's.
Tell you what, I wouldn't want to be Lando Norris next year.
No, yeah, true. He's going to be under pressure, isn't he?
Having that level of knobbishness as your teammate.
Because Lando's not the young guy anymore, is he? Lando's what is he? 25, 26 or something?
This is his 4th season.
Yeah, he's not up and coming anymore. He's established, or should be.
Season. Well, he's considered, top 5 drivers. I mean, he's always the best of the rest.
He is, yeah, that's very true. Yeah, just needs a championship winning car and he'll do
that
it.
That 7th place just needs that championship winning car. And finally, on F1, so we've obviously had Ferrari cocking up again. In Hungary, in Budapest, and with effectively giving Max Verstappen the win, even though he was starting P9
and doing 360s for fun.
Yeah,
parkour.
But they decided to put Charles on the hards for no obvious reason, even though they could have just put him on the mediums again and then gone on the softs, or just extended that medium run. Effectively giving Verstappen the win. And what I want to know, Joe, is Mercedes are now 30 points behind Ferrari in the constructors.
Yeah. How?
Well, Mr. Consistent George Russell and Lewis Hamilton just Ferrari seem to be brilliant at getting the worst possible outcome from the weekend, and Mercedes seem brilliant at maximising the best from every single possible weekend they can.
That's all it is. I told you last week, George, I butchered accents and told you that, whenever it was, the Germans are excellent.
The Germans,
they know what they're doing. They have the systems and they have the blueprints and it's fine. And the Italians don't care. It's just va-va-voom, razzmatazz and stuff. It's like you sit in the car and you drive and you win. But, the problem is, if it's formulaic and they've got the pace and they're in the mix, Ferrari seem to know what they're doing. But whenever anything goes wrong, or there's any kind of situation whereby they're on the limit of a pit stop when there's a safety car, whenever basically you need some decent sort of decision making, they just can't do it. And poor Charles and poor Carlos end up sitting in the pits when Max Verstappen's driving past at 200 miles an hour down the pit straight, and they lose 8 places and then only make 3 up and finish 5th, or crash out. Or it's going from bad to worse for Ferrari, and
well, I mean, I think they effectively cocked up from the start because they started Charles on the mediums, and obviously in F1 you have to use 2 sets, 2 different tyre compounds,
unless it's in the wet.
Which then buggers him because he's got to put on some kind of set of softs at the end, which is only ever going to do 10 laps, which meant he eventually went onto the hards instead, whereas everyone else started on the softs, got a good start, got a good 10 laps, and then you're just on the best race tyre for the rest of the race, it's just medium, as long as you like. Yeah. Whereas he was put in a compromised position because he had to put on a set of softs at the end, which weren't going to last very long, or go longer and go on a set of hards, which are effectively driving around in a Volkswagen Golf.
Yeah, in a Beamer.
Yeah.
So, Ferrari is shit, Mercedes are decent, Red Bull are going to win the title. That's it. In a nutshell, that's your F1, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for watching now, King.
Yeah, and I really do think it would be I mean, I don't see how Matteo Binotto could keep his job if. Well, I mean, I don't see how he keep his job this year anyway. But especially if Mercedes beat them in the.
Yeah, that's really because considering you could argue that they've on average they've probably had the best car.
Oh yeah, I think they have had the best car.
Yeah, and obviously Red Bull have maximised qualifying. The Ferraris seem to have Red Bull seem to have the one lap pace as ever, but the Ferraris seem to have better race pace, but they just cannot convert. And it's bad. Maranello are not sleeping well. But we've got summer break. We've got 6 weeks off or something. We've got ages away from F1.
Yeah, I think it's 3.
Is it 3?
It's not that long.
Is it? They call it a summer break, like it's an enormous gap. But...
Yeah. Well, it's another. It's another very good season, considering that it's a very boring championship now because Max could just,
he's going to run away with it. And again, the fact that he's now dominant and I despise him rings true. But there we are.
But that is such as life. Are there any other sporting areas, Joe, that we need to cover before we wrap up here?
Commonwealth Games, obviously, that's going down in Birmingham, in the Midlands.
The women came fourth in the cricket, losing to New Zealand, who got the bronze medal, and Australia and India are currently fighting for the gold. We host a sport that we invented in a country that is our own, and we come fourth to only the Commonwealth.
That's imperialism if ever I've seen it. Yeah.
Well,
it's literally it's countries that we've owned in the past, and now we can't even beat them at the game that we invented and spread to their lands.
And we're playing it in our own conditions.
We're playing it in our own conditions. We're playing it, in Tommy Shelby's backyard, and we can't even convert. But
it was like a 2020, and we got bowled out for 109.
Yeah, damn. And then, so we've also got what else has happened? Oh, Geraint Thomas, did you see the time trial, the Commonwealth time trial?
I saw that he fell off.
Yeah, he binned it after turn 1 and only lost by 16 seconds, which means he would definitely have won the gold medal for Wales, who I would speculate are in desperate need of medals in the tally. The road race. I don't even know who won the road race today. I care so little. I think Christoph got third for bronze for. Who does Alexander Christoph even represent? I don't know. They did. Christoph, I'm sure he was like Norwegian, but are they even in the Commonwealth?
He's not Dutch or something.
I don't know. Fuck. I really should know, being the pseudo-expert. But yeah, that's happened. Australia have cleaned up in the swimming as ever, I believe. But that's about it. I went to a live sporting event on Thursday, George. I went to watch the mighty Hull Kingston Rovers beat the Toulouse Olympique at the Sewell Group Craven Park with a maximum capacity of about 9,000 fans, all of which were in. So that was a wonderful display on Thursday evening. Thought about doing a few nice Insta pics for Gamesmanship, but then I had a few pints and thought better of it. But yeah, apart from that, I haven't seen an awful lot of stuff that's going on in the world. I mean, we've not done badly considering that there isn't much going on. Football's back and is going to take precedent over this podcast over the next few weeks. But apart from that, that's pretty much your lot.
And a recurring feature now will be a Burnley update because we are going to increase the Burnley supportership from about 4 people to about 6.
That would be good.
That would be good. That would help
50% increase.
So we are currently still undefeated.
Yeah, 4th, aren't you?
We had fourth. We had our opening victory against.
That was a good game,
which was a good 1-0 victory. Yeah. And we drew at home this week to Luton, who were again a top 6 side last season. So again, which was a very strong performance. It sounded like we just had Ashley Barnes up front who couldn't put it in the back of the net. So yeah, looking good if you are a claret and blue supporter.
And Hull City in the same league in the EFL Championship. They what did they do? Oh, they won in the last minute against Bristol City the first week and not snatched a point, but ground out a point against Preston. So they will be in a similar place to Burnley, if I'm not mistaken. They will probably be 5th or 6th, just behind them, I would imagine, on 4 points. Yeah, I don't support Hull City, but just for the purposes of competitiveness, competition rather, I may well support Hull City for this year, just so that I can put a few knives into George Wilson's back. So yes, up the Tigers.
Up the Tigers. Well, and with that message, I guess we should probably wrap up, and we'll probably go for a midweek chit chat.
Yeah, we'll do a little. What should we do midweek, George? Do you fancy doing anything? We could do a little bit of extracurricular activity.
I mean, there'll be some hundred. There'll be some
there will be some hundred chats to do, but yes. Yeah, so as ever, my name has been Joe Spivey. The man in front of the wonderful collection, the menagerie of bicycles, has been George Wilson with the rather large headphones on and the snapback cap. So yes, thank you ever so much for watching, people, and